Imagine walking into a billionaire's mansion, the chandelier shining. Marble floors polished, every detail screaming wealth. But behind that glamour hides a moment so shocking, so raw, that silence filled the entire house. A maid, a hard-working black maid, stood frozen. And then a sharp slap cracked through the air. It wasn't from her employer, but from the billionaire's own mother. What led to this moment? Why would someone with everything choose to humiliate the one person simply trying to make a living? Stay with me because this story will leave you questioning justice itself. Angela had worked as a maid for over 10 years in the wealthy Harrington household. She was known for her discipline, her honesty, and her resilience. Every morning she left her modest neighborhood to step into a mansion that looked like something out of a movie. She scrubbed, polished, and cared for a home that wasn't hers, yet she treated it with pride. For Angela, this job wasn't just work, it was survival. It was her way of putting food on the table for her children. The Harringtons were billionaires. Their fortune came from oil, investments, and decades of inherited wealth. To them, the world bent easily rules. People, even justice, seemed to operate differently when money was involved. But Angela believed in dignity. She believed that no matter how rich or poor, respect was something every human deserved. It was a quiet afternoon when tension began to simmer. The Harringtons were preparing for a grand charity gala, the kind where high society gathered to flaunt not only their wealth but their philanthropy. Angela moved swiftly, setting the dining hall, arranging silverware, and polishing crystal glasses. That's when the billionaire's mother, Margaret Harrington, entered the room. She was old money personified, pearls around her neck, a sharp tongue on her lips, and a sense of superiority that filled any space she walked into. Angela? Margaret snapped, pointing at the table setting. This fork is out of place. Do you think billionaires eat like peasants? Angela bowed her head, adjusted the silverware, and quietly said, "I'm sorry, ma'am." But Margaret wasn't done. Her tone sharpened. "I've told my son countless times, stop hiring your kind. You people never learn, never listen." Angela's hands trembled, but she stood firm. "With respect, ma'am, I'm doing my best." That answer, polite, steady, but confident, was enough to ignite Margaret's rage. In a world where she was used to silence and submission, Angela's dignity felt like defiance. And then it happened. Margaret raised her hand and slapped Angela across the face. The sound echoed off marble walls. The room went silent. Angela's cheek burned, her eyes filled with tears, but she didn't cry. She stood there frozen, her dignity wrestling against humiliation. The staff looked away, some pretending they hadn't seen, others paralyzed by fear of losing their jobs. The billionaire himself, Charles Harrington, walked in just seconds later. He saw his mother's hands still raised, saw Angela holding her face, and for the first time, the illusion of his family's respectability cracked. The air felt heavy. Angela wasn't just a maid anymore. She was a symbol. A black woman standing in a room full of wealth, enduring violence for simply existing with dignity. What Charles chose to do next would define not just him, but how America remembers people like Angela. In that moment, Charles Harrington had a choice: to side with his mother, preserving the image of family legacy, or to acknowledge the humanity of a woman his wealth had long overlooked. Angela, though, shaken, stood tall. She didn't beg, she didn't scream. She looked Charles in the eye and said softly, "All I ever asked for was respect." The Harrington estate never looked the same again. The story spread whispered among staff, rippling through communities, eventually hitting headlines. It was more than a slap. It was a reminder of America's unhealed wounds of wealth, race, and power, colliding in a single violent act. Angela's voice echoed louder than any slap ever could. And that echo demanded justice. A billionaire's mansion, a mother's hand, a maid's silent dignity. What should have been just another day of polishing silver became a moment that stripped away the mask of wealth and revealed the ugly truth of power. This wasn't just Angela's story, it's America's story. The question is, how many more Angelas suffer in silence, unseen, unheard? Tell me, if this happened in your city, would you speak up? Or would you stay silent? Comment your city name below and join the conversation.